All right, I think it says that I'm live, which is good. I am going to pop on my phone here and just make sure it's coming through. I know that this is the most exciting part of the thing here. Looks like I'm on there. So what I'm going to do then now is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a second here. Let's jump over here. About interest rates and see how that affects what the Fed is kind of looking at um, when they talk about interest rates. So give me a second here. There I go. I can see myself there. All right. Just want to turn down, make sure my volume's down. Sorry for people in Futureland who are watching this. But today we're going to talk about rates. And the way that the Fed looks at interest rates from an economic perspective is very similar to other ways that they look at things, and that's through a model. So when they look at rates, what they're seeing is different models. We call them economic models, right? So econ models. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we call the ISLM model. I'm going to actually go a little bit further in so it's a little darker for you guys on the screen here. Let me make it a little bit larger. So the IS, and we kind of put a dash there, LM model. And what this model does is it breaks up the standard, the usual model that you see for GDP is called the aggregate expenditure model, which is basically consumption. And we've talked about this before. Consumption plus investments plus government spending plus net exports. But what the ISLM model does is it says we need to take financial aspects and goods and give them two separate areas. So we need to create a delineation between the two. And this is where the interest rate plays a role in this model and what the Fed is hoping will happen when this model is set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the aggregate expenditure model first, and we're going to look at the rate change. So the aggregate expenditure model is very similar. It's a graph, and yeah, I'm going to do it with the red right here. And what happens in the middle is we have the aggregate expenditure here, and we have Y on the bottom axis, and Y equals AE for this point right here. And Y is income. And aggregate expenditure is output, is what we call that, output. It's basically GDP. So what happens is if we look up here at the AE model that we have, we are now going to recreate that over here. So this is where it is at equilibrium, but it's not always there. So it kind of pops up a little bit, and we call it AE equals the C plus I plus G plus NX. Plus NX. And what happens is at equilibrium, that is this point here. That means that this is our output for our given income. And keep in mind, income is if we spend money, it turns into somebody else's income. So we're going to put this at Y0. Not Y6. Sorry about that. Y0. 0. So what the ISLM model does is it takes this aspect of the economy and it divides it into a separate graph over here. And this new graph that we have is going to be different points. We are going to go ahead and create a graph. And here on the bottom, we're going to have income, or what do we just call it over there? Y. And on the side here, we're going to call it small r, or rate. So at equilibrium, if we were to grab, making these a little larger here, if we were to grab the equilibrium point where output AE0 equals income Y0, and pop it over here on this rate, we would know that this is rate 0. And we also know that it's going to be over here somewhere, and it's going to turn into Y0. Because these two here, if we span out a little bit, let's do gold, we know that Y0 here and Y0 here are equal. So if the Fed says we are going to increase rates, they are going to shift this R0 upward. Let's say to this point here, we'll call it R1. So at R1, what happens is now it's going to cause a new point of disequilibrium over here. So now we can see, oh, there's my hand. Now we can see here that it is no longer in equilibrium at this point. And we're going to say R1 is like over here. Because ultimately what we're going to see here is that if we had an increase, it would be over here. So our income would fall to Y1. So if our income falls to Y1, remember oh yeah, actually, I'm sorry. This part right here, that's another graph. It doesn't cause the graph to shift to the left. It causes the graph to shift on the bottom. So an increase in rate right here to R1 causes a new balance right here to Y1, which shifts this down towards 0. So when this shifts down towards 0, what happens is the overall aggregate model must stay on the Y equals AE graph down to the new location, which is right here. This means it's AE2 or 1, which equals C plus I plus G plus NX. All this graphing to show, which most people know intuitively, when the interest rate increases, our income decreases and our aggregate expenditure or output decreases. Now, the Fed is trying to do this because they want to lower people from spending, which is getting out of control. They think that there's too much investment and not enough savings in the market. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to equilibrate the savings and decrease. So when you have a dollar, you generally have a few different options. You have consumption, you have savings or investments, and you have taxes. Well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take this middle portion here, which is probably like X number of investments and savings, and they're trying to push this line towards the middle so you have an equal amount of savings and investment. And in the meantime, it's also going to push this end line here, which was all the way up here, over as well, which will decrease consumption. All right, so let me see. I'm going to check the chat. I'm not sure if I have any questions. I don't think that I do, because I think I would see them here. Nope, and that's okay. So I think that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see here. I think it stopped sharing. There we go. So I hope you guys liked this. If you watched it, I just kind of go through some things here and there about the economy and try to bring it in. When we talk about the Fed this week, I wanted to show you what that looked like. So I hope that I was able to do that. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know.